For the past 6 years, I've participated in NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month, as have tens of thousands of other authors, using the month to build community, build up our backlog of written works, and for many people, it's what has given them the impetus to actually become published authors. Out of NaNoWriMo have come several other organizations that are incredibly useful for authors. But this year, for the first time, I will not be participating. And there's a few things that have slowly built up over time to make NaNoWriMo something that I'm not willing to give my work to or participate in or promote. The most egregious of which was their massive failure over safeguarding of minors on their forums. However, this has been written about and talked about by people who are far better at tackling that issue than I am, and I'm going to leave them to do it. And if you want a pretty good summary and rundown of that situation, you can look up the work of Colleen McCracken and her My Take on the NaNoWriMo situation from back in November last year. In this video, I want to talk about a different issue that got raised this year. As the growing strife around generative AI grew in the writing scene, they were pushed to put out a statement on the issue, and they came out on the side in favor of generative AI, saying that they recognize and respect writers who believe that AI tools are right for them. And I want to make very clear that as an author and as a software engineer who works with technologies similar to these, I do not recognize and respect writers who use generative AI. The main players in generative AI technology, people like OpenAI, people like Google, people like Microsoft, have built their software off the mass theft of enormous quantities of writing and art from creators without consent or compensation. The databases that their technology exists through using could not exist without this mass theft. Don't take my word for it, take theirs. OpenAI, I will quote, said, "It would be impossible to train today's leading AI models without using copyrighted materials." And they don't mean by that they used copyright materials by applying to use those materials. No, they mean that they just scraped them without asking and without paying for it. They just ignored copyright, intellectual property, the lot. They believed that they were entitled to the art and writing of all of these hundreds of thousands of creators. And without doing that, without this act of mass theft, they would not have the data sets they need to have built these generative AI models. And all of the generative AI tools you are likely to come across are based on the data sets built using this mass theft. Almost everything involved in generative AI is in some way plugged into these big AIs. Things like ChatGPT, things like Microsoft Copilot, things that only exist off these data sets. These data sets, which are just the regurgitated bulk of the masses of stolen content. The reason I do not respect the people who claim to be authors who use those tools is because they do not respect me, and they do not respect any other author and artist whose work is stolen to build this data. They are happy to take advantage of the exploitation of the people that they claim to be colleagues of. You cannot use these tools and claim to have respect for the people whose work was stolen to build them. And I do not recognize these people who claim to be authors because they're not. What they are producing is regurgitated garbage. It is the lowest common denominator, stereotyped, cliched, bottom of the barrel result of if you squeeze together the sum total of everything everyone else has created and just pump out the stereotypes and the tropes that are common to all of them, because that's all generative AI is capable of doing. Recognizing patterns and giving you what it thinks you want to match those patterns. It is incapable of original thinking. It is incapable of original work. It doesn't matter if authors produce work which is derivative on other work. Everyone's is. The importance is that they are capable of taking in the sum of everything they have experienced and to produce work with their completely unique take on it. A take that is unique because of who they are. No one else is them. Meanwhile, generative AI models will produce exactly the same take on everything to everyone who asks them for it. Anyone who types in, "I want an epic tale of a young boy from a farm raised by a old wizard," will get the same result, the same distilled remnant of everything that was mulched together to produce it. And they are doing that instead of using their creativity, instead of being creators. So I don't recognize or respect the people who use these tools, and neither should NaNoWriMo. But they did worse. They went even further than that. They claimed it was classist and ableist for people to condemn these AI tools, which is not only a perverse weaponization of the languages of marginalized communities against those very people, but it's insulting to people from working class backgrounds and with disabilities who are creators, who are authors, who are artists. They weren't left out when everyone's creative input was just piled into the bottomless pit. But their experiences and their struggles in the industry that does discriminate against them is then used as an excuse to exploit them. And this could all have simply been written off as just another company that didn't read the writing on the wall and threw its lot in with the wrong kind of people out of ignorance or naivety. But that would be to ignore the list of sponsors on the NaNoWriMo website and their new sponsor, the creators of the AI writing tool, Pro Writing Aid. That's right, all of this attempt to justify the theft of the creative output of the very community that NaNoWriMo used to support is being done because they have literally been sold out. They were faced with a choice between solidarity with the community that has created them or defending the people who throw money at them. They chose the latter. So I won't be participating in NaNoWriMo this year, and I probably won't do in years in the future as well. What I will do instead is set up my own ability to track my own progress during these kind of challenge months on my website. Because I'm a software engineer, I can just do that. And what else I can do? I can help integrate that same code into the website of my writing community, the Edinburgh Science Fiction and Fantasy Authors Group. And I can work with other software engineers who are also authors in that group to try and ensure that that is a tool that is open to everyone who's a part of that community. Because that's how the writing community actually works. People using their skills and their knowledge to support one another. Not by signing up to exploit the theft of the work of their peers, but by authors helping each other succeed with mutual respect and admiration for the creativity each of us is able to produce, like we always have done.